Swayam Prabha. Digital India. Educated India.
I'll start with lecture number 17 of AE 673 course. So till now we looked at the, if I do a quick recap, we started off with basic materials and what are, how we define composites as respect to say alloys or something. And then we also looked at manufacturing processes, the pros and cons of those manufacturing techniques. And then we briefly covered a few methods in micromechanics, and we talked about what is the role of micromechanics in terms of how to obtain the homogeneous properties of a composite material given the individual constituent materials as input. Now, from micromechanics, we went to lamina. Basically, micromechanics is giving you fiber direction properties or properties with respect to the fiber coordinate system essentially. Now, those essentially could be also applied to lamina. In case of a lamina, it's a 2D structure. So we looked at plane stress, equations. And so from lamina level properties, then we talked about how we can stack different lamina. Now, when we stack different lamina, we can make a laminate. Now, a laminate can have lamina of different orientations. Now, depending on the orientation, we will have to transform those compliance matrix, of that particular layer into the global coordinate system. Or if you want to go from global to local, we need to know the transformations. So we looked at the transformations. And finally, we have developed a relationship for laminate stress and laminate strain, or we are in the process of that actually. So we will look at today on how to, go about defining these forces, and from there to get to the final equation of sigma is equal to sum dash into epsilon, or N and M, which is what I mentioned, that in laminates, we don't talk about the stresses, but we talk about force per unit length, and we talk about the moment per unit length terms. So we'll look into that. So today we will cover the derivation for the laminate theory, which is the ABBD matrices. Okay. So laminate level force and moment resultants. So in laminate, as I mentioned, we don't talk about the stresses, or we don't talk about force, but we talk about force per unit length and for moment per unit length. So why do we need to develop the relationship in terms of, force is equal to something into strains? Because many times forces and moments are input, or many times the opposite, the strains are input and you want to calculate forces and moments. So we need to know the relationship of both sides. Okay. This is just again a revisit. We are defining these not unit, sorry, the force per unit length as this term, nx. This is a problem with the new PowerPoint, I think. It doesn't allow me to go back when I'm recording. So here we are defining the nx as the integral of the sigma x, which is acting on this particular face. So sigma x is on this face. So nx would be, or rather, since I have defined it here, let's say, so sigma x is here. So I am saying nx is the integral of sigma x dz. Now, ny is similarly integral of sigma y, and nxy is integral of sigma xy through the thickness minus h over 2 to plus h over 2. Similarly, mx, my, and mxy. So the mx, my would be basically the moment terms. And I also mentioned in the previous lecture, and I just want to repeat so that you remember, is that in the convention, the notations, here mx is the moment about y-axis caused by forces along x-axis. Okay, in beams and all, it is more conventional or more normal to say mx is the moment about x-axis. So here we are defining the moment subscript based on the force that is causing the moment. So since sigma x, the stress acting along the x direction, is causing this moment, we are going to define this moment as mx. Okay, please remember this, otherwise you might end up flipping the moment loads, okay, about the axis, because you might take mx as the axis along the y, I mean about x-axis, so then it will be shown on the y-axis then. So that will be then completely wrong loading for the problem. So remember that. So then what we do is we now want to calculate the force, moment and stress strain relations at the laminate level. That is the objective. So what we do, we already know that we have defined n as integral sigma dz. I mean, I'm not putting the subscript, it can be x, y, z. Depending on that, you will have xy, not z, xy and xy. Okay, so depending on that, you can integrate it. Now, so first we go back to the relationship for stress in terms of the mid-plane strains and curvatures, which we derived previous class. So we have written down now the stress at any layer, stress in any layer can be multiplied, can be obtained by this multiplied by the Q bar matrix as well as the mid-plane or the reference plane strains and curvatures. So what we do, we basically for now n x we have defined as sigma x dz. So all we will do is we will take sigma x expression from here. So sigma x would be q bar 11 into epsilon 0 xx plus z kappa 0 xx plus q bar 12 like that. You multiply that and you substitute that into the expression, into the integral expression. So when you do that, I'll move this. So when we do this, we substitute that into this integral and then we will expand this out. Okay. So once you expand it, you can then multiply every term with q bar 11 here, q bar 12, and you collect, like terms. So you collect all the mid-plane strain terms and you collect all the curvature terms separately. And then the other thing we will do is we have taken this integral as minus h over 2 to plus h over 2. But our integral is not one layer, isn't it? So we have multiple layers. So what we do, we start off from, so instead of showing minus h over 2 plus h over 2, we will just give it the z coordinates. So I'll go with z0, z1 like that. And I'll go from k minus 1 to k. Now k basically is the index. Okay, it is telling me what layer I am. And k can go from basically 1 to n essentially. So you can then write down all your that integral in terms of z0, z1 like what I'm showing here. And so this one is for the z0 to z1 layer. This one is k minus 1 to kth layer for the, so I'm not writing every layer, okay? I'm just saying z0, z1, and like that you can continue to write till you reach the k minus 1 to the kth layer, okay? And same thing for the curvature terms also, I can write it like this, where I'm saying z0 to z1, and then you can imagine other middle layers, and then I'm reaching the k minus 1 to kth layer. Okay, I hope it's clear. Any questions?
Like, sir, suppose we do have three laminas, then it will be Z0 and then K minus 1 means Z1 to Z2 and Z2 to Z3.
Yeah, so Z0 to Z1 is the first integral. Then you will have another one Z1 to Z2. plus another integral z2 to z3. Okay, so this is just to make it convenient for programming essentially. So I mean, and also you know, this is based on the notations that I'm using. Okay, then any other questions? I mean, I think it's straightforward. There shouldn't be any confusion here. We have just broken up the integral into subintegrals based on the domain of each layer or the height of each layer. Then similarly, when we come to the moment expression, we have defined mx as sigma x z dz. So again, we do is we substitute this expression for sigma x into the moment integral that I have written here, and now we will have this z here already, which was there even previously, but what happens is because there is also a z outside, so you will end up with some quadratic terms also of z. So again, in this we will separate out the epsilon 0 terms and the curvature terms, and what we will do is we will again expand them out per layer. So I have gone from z0 to z1, similarly zk minus 1 to zk for those terms, and then z0 to z1 again for this, and then zk minus 1 to z. So now what you will notice is in the moment case, you will have a linear term in z and as well as a quadratic term in z inside the integral. So when you integrate them out, it will become a quadratic and a cubic, which is again, see, if you recall, this is very similar to your beam expression. Now cubic will become EI. Z cube is nothing but your BH cube by 12, for example, the moment of inertia. The H cube term is coming from the Z cube term. So it's just exactly analogous and nothing complicated here. So then what we do is we take that expression and we try to simplify it, because every time to write out all these integrals is different, and also we are dealing with multiple layers here. So instead of an integral, we convert that into a summation, because these are discrete layers. Okay, so what we do is we say k is going from 1 to capital N as I have written, and now your q bar ij is for every k layer. So you have to define for every layer, you have to get your q bar ij, and z. So one term is zk minus 1, which is the you know, for the constant term. That means this is only multiplying, the A matrix is only multiplying epsilon 0 terms. Okay, now in case of B matrix, this is the term which is multiplying the z epsilon 0 term inside the integral. Okay, that is why when it comes out, it becomes z square. This one was just epsilon 0, so it comes out, you have a multiple of z here. Okay, now this is z square, and the last one was already an quadratic inside the integral, so when you integrate it out, it becomes z cube term. So this a, b and d are just for our again, to make it easier and to make it simpler in terms of you know, readability, and also for calculation purpose. So we collect all the terms which are linear in z, we collect all the terms which are quadratic in z, and we collect all the terms which are cubic in z, and we calculate these A, B, D matrices. These are nothing but terms which are coming out of the previous slides, you know, where I have shown the expansion of the integral. So nothing new I am doing here. Okay, so now this is the, so now what we will do, if you recall, we started off saying nx is integral sigma x dz. Then I have substituted here q bar into epsilon 0 plus z times kappa 0. You know, I am not putting all those subscripts. I'm just wanting to recap for you here quickly, so you can make connection here. So nx is equal to sigma x dz, and then inside sigma x we have substituted the relationship of a you know, general lamina, where for any at any height Z, what would be the strain? So Q bar epsilon 0 plus ZK bar kappa 0, and then I expand this out. So I will have some terms which are linear in Z, and I will have some terms which are, quadratic. I mean, this will be quadratic in Z. So now these terms, we have said quadratic terms we have said as B, and the linear terms we have said as A. So what we will do, all the terms which are multiplying only the midplane strains, okay, so those terms we will, these midplane only strains, okay, epsilon 0, epsilon yy, and gamma xy, we call that as the A matrix. So what is A matrix doing? If you look at it, A matrix is connecting my extensional forces nx, ny, and nxy, these the forces with the strains of the midplane, extensional and the shear strains in the midplane. So this A matrix is basically your coupling between nx, ny, nxy, and the epsilon 0 xx, epsilon 0 yy, and gamma 0 xy. Now what is B matrix doing? B matrix is connecting the axial forces, okay, sorry, these are axial, force members to the curvature terms. Okay, so we will look at it more later, because it's very important when we are doing laminate design to understand these relationships and to figure out what kind of layups will help me decouple some of these connections. And sometimes we deliberately want a coupling, and at that time we want to introduce, these things. But that's what these matrices are doing. Basically, the A matrix is connecting my forces to the midplane strains, okay, and the B matrix is connecting my curvatures to the forces, okay. Then the other integral for the connection for the moments, we get the same thing. We get the quadratic term in the first one, which is multiplying with epsilon 0x. Again, if you recall from the formulation, so we had sigma x z dz, isn't it? So now what will happen if I substitute my epsilon 0 plus z kappa 0 times z dz? Now this z is already present, so it multiplies to epsilon 0 in the integral, and it will again, when I integrate it out, I will end up with some q bar z square term, which is again same as the B matrix here, but there it was multiplying the kappa variable in the top, but now it will multiply the epsilon 0 variable. So I get a B matrix which is same as this B and this. So the B matrix is same as the top one, except that now it couples the moment to the in-plane strains. Whereas in the previous above equation, the B matrix is coupling the axial forces to the curvatures. Okay, is it clear? Yes. Hello?
Yes.
Okay. So this B matrix is called the coupling matrix, and the D matrix is your, now where is my D? Yeah. So D matrix is going to multiply the Z kappa term, but already Z is here and we are multiplying again with another Z inside the integral. So inside the integral you already have a Z square term. So when I integrate it out, I'll end up with a Z cube term. Okay, now when I multiply this Q bar, so this becomes my D matrix as I have defined in the previous slide. So this D matrix is multiplying my kappa term, which is the curvature term. So what's happening here is that now we have converted, if you notice, we have converted a lamina level response, and then we have said, okay, a stack of lamina will respond in this way. And the advantage of doing it in this manner is actually, see, nx, ny, nxy are your in-plane forces, mx, my, mxy are your moments, and now I can look at a laminate, okay, and I can calculate this AB, BD matrices, and based on that I can understand what kind of coupling will exist. So now let's look at this in a generic way with combining both equations. Then what you will notice is that, for example, if for a matrix the B matrix is 0, okay, so let us say n and m. So this is B, isn't it? And this is D, and I will put here epsilon zeros and curvatures. I'm not going to write everything. I hope you understand that. So A, B, B, D. Okay. Now let's imagine this B guy is gone. What does it mean? Just looking at the equations, you can say something. No? I mean, I'm not asking you about any. This is purely from a
Symmetric, like symmetric. If it is gone,
Symmetric matrix n is equal to a epsilon naught.
yeah. It is not about symmetry or anything. The point really here is we were talking about coupling, isn't it? So what is getting coupled or what is getting decoupled when B is going to 0? See, if you expand this equation out, one second, where is my mouse? Yeah, okay. So if I expand this equation out, I'm left with these equations, isn't it? Are they coupled or are they uncoupled?
uncoupled.
Yes, no, people seem to be a little bit confused here. Are they coupled or are they uncoupled?
Uncoupled.
Why?
So because the common relation was B between them, that was coupling NMM. So that is it is vanished. So they are uncoupled.
Yes, that is a okay. I mean, that's one step forward, but that was a very equation based approach. But my point is physically what's happening in this to say that there is no coupling. What are the physical parameters here in this? N, M, A, epsilon 0, kappa 0, isn't it? Epsilon 0 is the in plane, mid plane reference strains. Kappa 0 is the curvature term.
So it means that curvature does not. Stress force does not depend on curvature.
Yes, and movement does not depend on epsilon 0.
Yes.
So if we can make a laminate, okay, where the B matrix goes to 0, okay, then what we can do, suppose I pull the like I'm stretching the composite, okay, I will only develop stretch forces. I will not develop moments. And similarly, if I take a laminate like that and I apply a bending curvature, like imagine there is a displacement curvature I put, it will only develop movements and it won't develop any normal forces or in plane forces, nx, ny or nxy. So it could be useful in some situations. Some situations, where we don't want this kind of coupling, we want it because this will simplify life. Now, there could be situations where you actually want this coupling to be present. Can you tell me something? Can you say where we might want this kind of a coupling to be present? Especially since we are in aerospace engineering department, we should, I think some of you should answer that.
Sir, control surface.
Yes, control surface for what? I mean, control surface, yes, but how will you do control surface anyway with this?
So if might we apply the stress on maybe let it be empana, a vertical tail. So if we apply axial force, then it will create bending moment and it can deflect by the bending moment due to bending moment.
So you basically want to have out of plane deformations which are coupled to in plane forces or deformations. Then you want this, yes. But how does it help? Actually, even more than a control surface, actually typically we want this, you must have heard about the word aeroelastic tailoring. Have you heard? Yes, no, nobody has heard?
So just scratch the surface on just.
I'm just saying, yeah, even scratch the surface. That's all I'm asking. Have you heard about the word or not?
Yes, sir.
So when we talk about aeroelastic, basically what we want to do, suppose you have you want to shed load at a certain point, okay? Then what we will create a blade or a structure where the layup is such that every time the axial load applies, the curvature also, will change. Now, because of that, what happens? The angle of attack of the blade will change. And if you design it properly, you can make it either, reduce the lift if you don't want at that point, or, you can do it either way, depending on how we design this whole structure. So this is of use for, it's in some cases, not every case, but something that could be utilized. But then there are also bad things because of this. You know, if you have if you are making a part where there is a strong coupling, B matrix coupling, imagine, you know, after curing, you know, and the part goes through some temperature cycling, isn't it? I mean, because of curing. Now, when the part is taken out of the mold, there could be some warpage to begin with because of this coupling. So there are both advantage, disadvantage. So the whole the reason why we have to go through this, and if you recall right in the beginning, I mentioned that this material is one thing where you should understand the mechanics of this material before you get into the design, and also you should know the manufacturing process. The reason why we need to know all of this is this kind of coupling that comes up. Even though to start with, we started off with an isotropic glass fiber and isotropic matrix, and a single layer, a UD of a glass composite is still a transversely isotropic. There is no coupling. But by the time you come to a laminate, there is a strong possibility that you might end up with coupling if the layers are off, you know, off axis layers are present. Basically, when I say off axis, what I mean is, like, you know, you're not just UD, but you have a 15 degrees, 30 degrees, 40 degrees, 45, 50, whatever, anytime you go away from zero. So, and if you are stacking them for whatever requirement in a way, then you will end up with this kind of coupling. So, as a composite laminate designer, we have to know, you know, how to eliminate the coupling when it is required, how to keep the coupling when it is required, and the other couplings which are also important are the in plane warpage curvature, the D26 and the D16 terms. These are also very important values, because what they do, they sort of connect the in plane movement, the MXY, the warping movement, to the curvatures and the strains. So these third row of the term, sometimes we might want to design something, but not necessarily create a warping. We are okay with the coupling of axial to curvature, but we don't want a out that MXY terms, you know, those curvature KXY, kappa XY terms. So then we want to get rid of these, the D6, D16, those kind of terms. So there are all these different cases depending on the functionality that we desire, that we have to create laminates where this could be done. So this is one of the reasons why composite materials, you know, are also liked, because it of the tailorability. When we say tailorability, what we are saying is this aspect of these composite materials where I can tailor my material to the requirement. If you have, suppose, steel, can you do this? Yes, no?
No.
Yeah, with steel, it's not possible because it's isotropic. Even if you stack up 10 layers of steel, it still will be same. You know, so there is no, it doesn't give you this kind of flexibility. It has its own advantages, no question about it. But composites have their own advantages, and these are the kind of advantages. But again, as I mentioned, every advantage can become a disadvantage depending on the situation you are in. So that is why it's very important that when you are doing any composite material design, you should know thoroughly the internal mechanics of this material, so that you understand what's going to happen if you do something like this. You know, this is also important because, say for example, we talk about 0-degree layer or 15-degree layer, 45-degree layer, and in the manufacturing shop floor, people don't, suppose somebody is there who is not aware about the criticality of these things, he might put it at 30 degrees. Now, what happens when you put it 30 to 45 is your B matrix will change. You know, your B matrix will change, and suppose you are aiming to obtain a certain type of coupling, you will not get it, or maybe you will get it more severely than what you wanted. So all these things, that's why matter. Okay, so whatever we are doing in this course, it has a real relevance to the final product that you are going to get. If, I mean, I'm not assuming that everybody will go and work in composites, but a few of you who might get an opportunity, you should keep this in mind, that when you are designing structures with composites, this is very important to carry it in your head. You know, how, what is the layup, what is the laminate, how are these terms affecting ABBDs, matrices. And that is one of the reasons why I'm asking you to develop that Excel or a MATLAB based code, because you should know exactly what's going to happen if you have a certain layup. and which terms will vanish and all that. Okay, maybe I'm repeating it a couple of times, but it's the most important thing in this course. Okay, so work
Sir,
on.
I
Yes,
do have one doubt. Sir,
yes.
when you say coupling, sir, what is the like physical significance here? Like I do have several layers, and how do basically they couple up?
See, because if suppose you have all zeros, okay, then nothing will happen because your B matrix will go to zero. Now you will say, why will B matrix go to zero for all zeros? Because if you notice the Z into kappa term, when you have layers on the top and bottom having the same, this thing, then you will find out when you do the calculations that they will cancel out. Okay, and you will end up with a term which is there is no coupling. But now suppose you create unsymmetric layups, then what happens? The B matrix becomes present. So physically what it means, if you take a laminate and you apply a NX load, okay, you are just pulling it straight, but that laminate will want to bend about x-axis and y-axis. I mean, depending on ny also, if you put. Now that is not great, isn't it? I mean, that could be great. Again, somebody said, like, for example, for control surface, if that was the objective for which you have designed, then it's great. But if that was not the objective, then you are in trouble, because now you are getting these out of plane deformations, curvatures, which will create problems for you. So now you have to constrain that. So that is the physical significance here, that when I say coupling, basically what I'm saying is you are going to get unwanted deformations or unwanted reaction forces depending on what is the loading. If you are applying a load, you will get some other types of deformations, not just the ones corresponding to the that load, but the curvature terms also. If you are applying curvatures, you will get reaction forces which you are not anticipating. So that is the connection I'm saying. Okay.
But sir, like when I'm applying a load in the x direction, and I do have suppose some sample cut out of that composite where all the fibers are in one direction. So in that case, you were telling that everything will be like only we will be getting deflection or deformation around along x-axis. But when the fibers are oriented in different directions in
Yes.
different lamina, so
Yeah.
how is it possible that we'll
How
get in?
so that is why I'm saying you have to write down once you write the Excel. See, if you notice, Q bar term is not just your material property. There are cos square theta terms, sin square theta terms, and all that. Those terms will activate all the non-diagonal terms, and that will cause these couplings.
So
So
that will be in
once,
plane, sir. Only. Pardon, sir. That will be in plane only.
but kappa xx is a curvature, na? Curvature, it means what? When you
Uh,
when you say curvature is deformation like this, isn't it?
right, sir.
So I am not saying out of plane like Z direction display. I am saying curvature will cause a deflection.
Okay, sir.
Okay. Yes. Any other questions? So now you see that I put nx of 1, and I'm only getting the okay, just because I'm just giving some numbers which are not, I think, which are too large maybe for the, but point is you will get only epsilon xx. But let's look at the AB BD matrices. So this is my A matrix, this is B matrix, this is D matrix. So my A matrix terms are all, B matrix terms are all 0. And also when you do zeros, when you do pure UD, these the third row connects your axial forces to your shear, isn't it? NX, Y terms, these third row. So the 1, 6, 2, 6, these terms, they also go to 0 in the A matrix. So that's the, um, you know, advantage of having symmetric layups. We will, I want you to do this. Actually, I don't want to do this exercise myself. I want all of you to develop this file, some code. I don't care which one, Excel, MATLAB, Scilab, anything. But you have to do that, and then I'll give you, I'm going to upload today the laminates or some sequences, and we will have a discussion in the class on that. Okay. And next class, I will go through some layups and all that to look at what's happening to the forces and the stresses. But also I have to still derive the other side where, so right now what's happening, I'm giving some input as strain, for example, then I'll get forces or force, but we will actually do the inverse of this so that we can calculate the, so small a, small b, small d, which is basically now say relating the mid-plane strains and the curvatures to the, so we will flip it, okay, and we will do the inverse calculation also, and we'll derive that. And after that, so hopefully by next Monday, then if you have a code, then we can have a discussion on all these layups and what layup is, so there are different layups and what happens to each layup, that we'll look at. So for now, I think I will stop here.